The twin moons of Kepler 4 to be cast an eerie silver glow across the wheat fields as 17-year-old Marcus Thompson finished his evening rounds. The settlement of Haven's Rest had been humanity's home for 3 years now. Ever since the colony ship Endeavour crash-landed on this alien world, what was supposed to be a simple refueling stop had become permanent when their engines failed beyond repair. Marcus wiped sweat from his forehead as he secured the last of the grain storage units. His father expected these checks done before midnight, especially with the strange energy readings the settlement scanners had been picking up lately. The local wildlife had been acting strangely too, as if something was disturbing the natural order of things. A soft whimper from the main storage barn made Marcus freeze. He gripped the plasma torch tighter, his heart hammering against his ribs. The settlement had strict rules about wild creatures getting into the food supplies. The native predators of this world were nothing like Earth's animals, and some could tear through metal with their crystalline claws. But as Marcus approached the barn's side entrance, the sound came again. It wasn't the growl of a beast or the screech of one of the local flying serpents. It sounded almost human, almost like someone crying. Against his better judgment, Marcus pushed open the heavy door and stepped inside. The beam of his torch swept across bags of processed grain and emergency rations until it landed on a figure huddled in the far corner. Marcus nearly dropped the light in shock. It was a girl, roughly his age, but her skin had a pale lavender hue that seemed to shimmer in the torchlight. Her hair was long and white as starlight, and when she looked up at him with wide, terrified eyes, he saw they were a deep violet color, unlike anything in nature. She was clearly not human. The alien girl pressed herself further into the corner, speaking rapidly in a musical language Marcus didn't recognize. Her clothing was torn and stained with what looked like silver blood. Deep cuts marked her arms and legs, and she favored her left side as if her ribs were damaged. "Hey, it's okay," Marcus said softly, raising his free hand to show he meant no harm. "I won't hurt you." The girl's violet eyes studied his face intently. When she spoke again, her words were broken but recognizable as English. "Please. No, tell others. They come for me." Marcus's mind raced. The settlement had encountered the local alien species before, but always at a distance. The tall, graceful beings the colonists called the ethereals were known to be intelligent, but had shown little interest in contact. This girl was clearly one of them, but why was she hurt and hiding in their grain storage? "Who's coming for you?" Marcus asked, crouching down to appear less threatening. My people," she whispered, pain evident in her musical voice. "I am ... marked. Traitor, they say." The word traitor sent a chill down Marcus's spine. He knew enough about alien cultures from the colony's xenanthropologist to understand that such accusations rarely ended well. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Zara," she replied, attempting to stand, but collapsing back down with a gasp of pain. Without thinking, Marcus moved forward to help her. She flinched at first, but something in his eyes must have convinced her he was safe. As he helped steady her, Marcus felt how warm her skin was, and noticed the faint sweet scent that surrounded her, like exotic flowers he'd never encountered. "I'm Marcus," he said, surprising himself with how steady his voice remained. "Let me help you with those wounds." Zara's eyes widened further. "Why your kind? Fear mine." Marcus considered the question seriously. The Settlement Council had indeed warned about getting too close to the indigenous species. But looking at this injured girl who was barely older than himself, all those warnings seemed distant and irrelevant. "Because you need help," he said simply, "and because it's the right thing to do." For the first time since he'd found her, Zara smiled. It was a gentle, grateful expression that made Marcus's heart skip in a way he didn't fully understand. There was something about this alien girl that drew him in. Something beyond her otherworldly beauty or her obvious intelligence, as Marcus helped clean her wounds with supplies from the barn's first aid kit. Zara began to tell her story in halting English. She spoke of ancient traditions being challenged, of her refusal to participate in something called the cleansing ritual, and of the warrior clan that had branded her an enemy of their people. They will not stop, she warned, wincing as Marcus applied antiseptic to a particularly deep cut on her arm. The Corvin warriors, they hunt until they find. Marcus felt a protective instinct surge through him that surprised him with its intensity. This girl had risked everything to stand up for what she believed was right, and now she was being hunted by her own people. He couldn't just turn her away. Then we'll make sure they don't find you, he said with more confidence than he felt. Zara stared at him in amazement. You would risk your safety for mine? We barely know each other. Marcus met her violet gaze steadily. I know enough, he replied, and meant it. 3 days had passed since Marcus first discovered Zara hiding in the grain storage. Already his entire world had shifted. He'd managed to relocate her to an abandoned maintenance shed on the outskirts of his family's property, a place where the settlement's regular patrols never bothered to check. Every spare moment he could steal away was spent bringing her food, medical supplies, and slowly piecing together her incredible story. My people, the Veltar, have lived on this world for thousands of your years, Zara explained as Marcus changed the bandage on her shoulder. Her wounds were healing remarkably fast, but she still moved carefully to avoid reopening them. We are what you might call guardians of the sacred places. Marcus listened intently as she described a civilization far more advanced than the human colonists had imagined. The Veltar possessed technology that seemed like magic. Living cities that grew from crystalline formations and a deep spiritual connection to the planet itself. But their society was also rigid, bound by ancient traditions that brooked no dissent. The cleansing ritual, Zara continued, her voice dropping to a whisper, it is meant to purify our bloodlines by removing those deemed impure, the elderly, the disabled, those who question the old ways. I could not stand by and watch innocents die. So you spoke out against it, Marcus said, understanding flooding through him. I did more than speak, Zara admitted, a fierce light entering her violet eyes. I helped 7 of the condemned escape during the ceremony. The Corvin warriors. They are the enforcement arm of our council. They will not rest until I am brought back to face judgment. Marcus felt his admiration for her growing stronger. Here was someone who had risked everything to save strangers, who had given up her entire way of life to stand up for what was right. It reminded him of the stories his grandfather used to tell about people on Earth who had fought against injustice, knowing the personal cost would be enormous. Tell me about your family, Zara said, changing the subject, as she often did when the conversation turned to dark. Do they know you are helping me? Marcus shook his head. My parents think I'm just working extra shifts to help with the harvest preparations. They wouldn't understand. The settlement council has made it clear that contact with your people is supposed to go through official channels only. Zara tilted her head, studying him with those mesmerizing eyes. And yet you risk punishment for someone you barely know. Why, Marcus? It was a question he'd been asking himself repeatedly over the past few days. Why was he risking his family's safety and his own future for this alien girl? But as he looked at her now, sitting cross-legged on the makeshift bed he'd created from spare blankets, her white hair catching the afternoon sunlight streaming through the shed's small window, the answer seemed obvious. Because I care about you, he said, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. Zara's expression softened, and she reached out to touch his hand. Her fingers were longer than a human's, and her skin felt like warm silk. In my culture, she said quietly, such feelings between our peoples would be considered impossible. We are taught that your kind and mine are too different to ever truly understand each other. Do you believe that? Marcus asked, intertwining his fingers with hers. Zara was quiet for a long moment, studying their joined hands. 3 days ago, yes, she admitted, but now. You have shown me kindness when you had every reason to fear me. You have listened to my words and treated me as an equal. You have... double quotes. She paused, searching for the right words in his language. You have seen me, not just what I am, but who I am. Marcus felt his heart racing as she leaned closer to him. There was something electric in the air between them, a connection that transcended the obvious differences in their origins. When Zara raised her other hand to gently touch his face, he didn't pull away. "Your skin is so warm," she murmured. "And these freckles across your nose, they are like tiny stars." Marcus couldn't help but laugh softly. "You're one to talk about unusual features," he said, reaching up to brush a strand of her luminous white hair back from her face. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Zara's violet eyes widened slightly at his words, and a faint lavender blush colored her cheeks. "Beautiful. In my world, I am considered plain. My hair is too light, my eyes too dark, my skin not pale enough." "Then your world is blind," Marcus said firmly, and meant it. Everything about Zara fascinated him, from the musical quality of her voice to the graceful way she moved, to the fierce intelligence that burned behind her unusual eyes. As the afternoon wore on, they talked about everything and nothing. Zara taught him a few words in her language, laughing at his clumsy pronunciation. Marcus told her stories about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests that his parents remembered from their childhood. They shared their dreams and fears, their hopes for the future. When evening approached and Marcus knew he had to return home before his absence was noticed, Zara caught his hand as he prepared to leave. "Marcus," she said softly, "I need you to know that whatever happens in the days to come, meeting you has been the greatest gift of my life. You have shown me that there is still goodness in the universe, that different peoples can find common ground." Marcus leaned down and gently pressed his forehead against hers, a gesture that felt natural despite their different origins. "Nothing is going to happen to you," he promised. "I won't let them take you." But even as he said the words, Marcus knew that forces beyond his control were already in motion. That night, as he lay in his bed, staring up at the twin moons through his window, he could feel that their peaceful interlude was coming to an end. In the distance, barely audible over the night sounds of the alien forest, came the sound of something that made his blood run cold. A rhythmic pulsing like a heartbeat made of thunder echoing across the valley. The Corvin warriors were coming. Marcus woke before dawn to the sound of his father's urgent voice calling from downstairs. Something in the tone made him bolt upright, instantly alert despite having slept poorly. He dressed quickly and hurried to the main room where his parents stood, huddled around their communication device, their faces pale with worry. "What's happening?" Marcus asked, though part of him already dreaded the answer. "Settlement alert," his father David replied grimly. "Council's called an emergency meeting. Apparently, we've got visitors." Marcus's blood turned to ice. Through the window, he could see other families emerging from their homes, all drawn by the same urgent summons. In the distance, 3 tall figures stood at the settlement's main gate, their presence unmistakable even from this far away. The morning sunlight seemed to bend around them, creating an almost ethereal effect that would have been beautiful under different circumstances. "The ethereals," his mother Janet whispered. "They've never come here directly before. Something must be terribly wrong." Marcus forced himself to appear calm, even as his heart hammered against his ribs. "Maybe they just want to establish better relations," he suggested, knowing how hollow the words sounded. His father shook his head. "Look at their posture, son. Those aren't diplomats. Those are warriors." As the Thompson family joined the stream of colonists making their way to the central meeting hall, Marcus caught his first clear glimpse of the alien delegation. They were indeed warriors, their tall forms encased in what looked like living armor that shifted and flowed like liquid mercury. Their faces were hidden behind ornate masks that resembled the skulls of predatory birds, and each carried weapons that pulsed with an inner light. Marcus recognized them from Zara's descriptions. Corvin warriors, the enforcers of Veltar justice. They had come for her. Settlement coordinator Elena Vasquez called the emergency session to order with obvious nervousness. She was a competent administrator, but like most of the colonists, she had no experience dealing with potentially hostile alien contact. The 3 warriors stood silently at the back of the hall while she addressed the gathered crowd. "Citizens of Haven's Rest," she began. "They claim to be seeking a fugitive from their justice system who may have taken refuge in our settlement." A murmur of concern rippled through the crowd. Marcus felt sick to his stomach as the lead warrior stepped forward and removed his mask, revealing features that were unmistakably related to Zara's but harder, more angular. Where her eyes held warmth and intelligence, his were cold as winter stars. "I am Commander Thane of the Corvin Guard," he announced in perfect, unaccented English that somehow managed to sound more alien than Zara's broken attempts at their language. "We seek one called Zeronal Velmer, daughter of the House of Sacred Flame. She has committed crimes against our people and must return to face judgment." "What kind of crimes?" Coordinator Vasquez asked, trying to maintain diplomatic protocol, despite her obvious unease. "She has violated the sacred laws of our ancestors," Thane replied, his voice carrying a weight of absolute certainty. "She interfered with a purification ritual and aided enemies of our state in escaping justice. Her actions have brought dishonor to her bloodline and threaten the stability of our civilization." Marcus bit his tongue to keep from shouting out the truth about what Zara's crimes really were. Around him, he could see the worried faces of his neighbors as they processed the implications. If this fugitive was indeed hiding in their settlement, it could mean trouble for everyone. "We have not encountered any individuals matching that description," Vasquez replied carefully. "Our settlement maintains careful records of all residents and visitors." "Commander." Thane's cold eyes swept across the assembled crowd, and Marcus felt his stomach drop when that piercing gaze lingered on him for just a moment longer than the others. Could the warrior somehow sense his connection to Zara? Did aliens have abilities beyond human understanding? "Nevertheless," Thane continued, "we request permission to conduct a thorough search of your territory. The fugitive is dangerous and must be contained before she can spread her poison to others." The word poison made Marcus's hands clench into fists. These warriors spoke of Zara as if she were some kind of disease rather than a person who had risked everything to save innocent lives. The casual dehumanization in Thane's voice reminded Marcus of the worst stories from Earth's history, of oppressors who justified their actions by painting their victims as less than human. "I'm afraid that won't be possible without proper legal procedures," Vasquez replied, though Marcus could hear the strain in her voice. She was trying to buy time, but everyone in the room knew that 3 alien warriors could likely take the entire settlement if they chose to use force. Thane tilted his head slightly, a gesture that might have seemed curious on Zara, but felt distinctly threatening coming from him. "Your legal procedures are irrelevant to matters of Veltar law. However, we are prepared to offer compensation for your cooperation. Technologies that could benefit your colony significantly." The offer sent a buzz of excitement through parts of the crowd. Haven's Rest struggled with many basic necessities, from reliable power generation to medical supplies. Advanced alien technology could solve many of their problems overnight. "What kind of timeline are we looking at?" Vasquez asked. "We will begin our search at sunset," Thane announced. "The fugitive will not remain hidden much longer. Her scent grows stronger with each passing hour." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. Scent tracking. Of course, beings as advanced as the Veltar would have abilities beyond human understanding. Zara was in immediate danger, and there was nothing he could do about it without exposing both of them. As the meeting dispersed and families returned to their homes to discuss this development, Marcus slipped away from his parents and headed for the maintenance shed. He found Zara pacing anxiously in the small space, her supernatural hearing having apparently picked up enough of the distant conversation to understand what was happening. "They have come," she said simply, her violet eyes bright with unshed tears. "We knew they would," Marcus replied, taking her hands in his. "But that doesn't mean we're giving up." Zara shook her head sadly. "Marcus, you do not understand. The Corvin warriors, they have abilities your people cannot imagine. They will find me before nightfall, and when they do, they will show no mercy to anyone who has aided me." "Then we run," Marcus said firmly. "The forest is vast. We can hide until they give up and leave." "They will not give up," Zara insisted. "And even if we could evade them, what kind of life would that be? Always running, always hiding, bringing danger to anyone who shows us kindness?" Marcus pulled her close, feeling her warmth against him, and breathing in that sweet floral scent that had become so familiar. Then what do you suggest? I'm not just going to let you walk out there and surrender. Zara looked up at him with those mesmerizing eyes, and Marcus saw something there that made his heart ache. Love, yes, but also a resolution that scared him more than the approaching warriors. There, light, is something I have not told you, she said softly. Something about who I really am. When you know the truth, you may understand why running is not an option. Before Marcus could ask what she meant, sound of approaching footsteps made them both freeze. Through the shed's small window, he could see David Thompson walking toward their hiding place, his expression grim with determination. Marcus's father had found them. Marcus stepped protectively in front of Zara as his father approached the maintenance shed, his mind racing through possible explanations for why David Thompson had tracked him here. Had he been seen coming and going? Had someone reported suspicious activity? Or was this something worse? Dad, Marcus said, as his father stopped just outside the shed doorway. I can explain. David's weathered face was unreadable as he took in the scene before him. His eyes moved from Marcus to the alien girl partially hidden behind his son, lingering on her distinctive features and the makeshift living space Marcus had created. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but firm. Son, we need to talk. All three of us. Zara stepped forward, her chin raised with dignity despite her precarious situation. Mr. Thompson, your son has done nothing wrong. If you must report someone to your authorities, report only me. David studied her with the same careful attention he used when examining damaged farm equipment, looking for the root cause of a problem. You speak our language well for someone who's supposed to be hiding from civilization. I learned from the memory crystals our scouts recovered from your crashed ship, Zara replied honestly. We have studied your people since your arrival, though few of us believed meaningful contact was possible. And yet here you are, sheltered by my son, who's been lying to his family for days. David's tone wasn't accusatory, but it carried the weight of disappointment that hit Marcus harder than anger would have. Dad. She's not what they're saying she is, Marcus said urgently. The warriors out there, they're hunting her because she tried to save innocent people. She's not a criminal, she's a hero. David held up a hand to forestall further argument. Let's start with the truth. All of it, miss. Zeronal Velmer, she replied formally, then added more softly. But Marcus calls me simply Zara. Zara, then. Why don't you tell me exactly what happened that got half the settlement turned upside down this morning? Over the next hour, Zara told her story again, but this time with more detail than she'd shared even with Marcus. She described the cleansing ritual in stark terms that made David's face darken with anger. She explained the rigid caste system of Veltar society, the growing extremism among their leaders, and her own family's position among the moderate nobility who posed such harsh measures. My father is Velmer, the truth seeker, keeper of the ancient archives, she revealed. And Marcus saw his father's eyes widen slightly at this information. He taught me that knowledge belongs to all people, not just those in power. When I saw what the ritual would do to innocent lives, I could not remain silent. So you helped them escape, David said. It wasn't a question. 7 souls who had committed no crime beyond growing old or being born different, Zara confirmed. I used my family's influence to access the ceremony grounds and guided them to safety in the Southern Territories. David leaned back against a support beam, processing everything he'd heard. And now these Corvin warriors want to drag you back to face punishment? Death, Zara said simply. The punishment for interfering with sacred rituals is death, usually by exposure to the void between stars. Marcus felt sick hearing it stated so matter-of-factly. He'd known Zara was in danger, but somehow having it spelled out so clearly made it feel more real. More urgent. There's something else, David said quietly, and something in his tone made both young people look at him sharply. The warrior commander Thane. He's not just here for you, is he? Zara went very still. What do you mean? I've spent 40 years reading people, and that alien had the look of someone with a personal stake in the outcome. This isn't just duty for him. Zara closed her eyes. When she opened them again, Marcus saw a pain there that cut him to the core. Commander Thane was my betrothed. Our bonding was arranged by our families when we were children, a political alliance between the House of Sacred Flame and the House of Iron Stars. Marcus felt as if he'd been punched in the stomach. You're engaged? He managed to choke out. The arrangement was broken when I chose to oppose the cleansing ritual, Zara said quickly, reaching for his hands. Thane himself requested release from the contract, claiming I had brought dishonor to both our houses. But Marcus, you must understand, what I feel for you is real. What I felt for him was duty, nothing more. David watched this exchange with knowing eyes. So this Commander Thane isn't just hunting a political fugitive. He's hunting the woman who rejected him and everything he stands for. Yes, Zara whispered, and he will show no mercy to anyone who has given me aid or comfort. The implications hit Marcus like a cold wave. Not only was Zara's life in danger, but his family and potentially the entire settlement were at risk because of his decision to help her. The weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders like a physical burden. We have to get you out of here, Marcus said urgently. Tonight, before they start their search, but David shook his head. Son, they're already searching. I saw them starting at the eastern perimeter an hour ago. They're being systematic about it, and they have some kind of tracking technology we've never seen before, as if summoned by his words. The sound of approaching voices drifted through the shed walls. Marcus's blood turned to ice as he recognized the musical but cold tones of Veltar's speech. The searchers were close, and getting closer. There's a passage, David said suddenly. Moving to the back corner of the shed where old farming equipment was stored. Your grandfather and I built a tunnel system during the early days, in case we ever had to evacuate quickly. It connects several buildings and leads out to the forest. Marcus stared at his father in amazement. You knew? You knew I was hiding her, and you prepared for this. David's weathered face creased into a slight smile. Son, I was young once too, and I recognized the look of a man in love, even when that love seems impossible. The voices outside were getting closer, and Marcus could now make out individual words. They were discussing search patterns, dividing up the remaining buildings. They had minutes at most. The tunnel leads to an old survey station about 2 kilometers into the forest, David continued, pulling aside a section of flooring to reveal a narrow passage below. There's emergency supplies cached there. Psst, enough for several days. Zara looked between father and son, her violet eyes shining with gratitude. Mr. Thompson, why would you risk this for someone you barely know? David helped her down into the tunnel, his expression serious but kind. Because my son loves you, and he's a good judge of character. Because what you did took real courage, and the galaxy needs more people willing to stand up for what's right. And because, he added with a slight grin, I've never liked bullies, no matter what planet they come from. As Marcus prepared to follow Zara into the tunnel, his father caught his arm. Marcus, listen to me. This won't end with just running and hiding. Eventually, you're going to have to make a choice about what kind of life you want and what you're willing to sacrifice for it. The sound of footsteps right outside. The shed made them both freeze. Commander Thane's voice, cold and imperious, called out in English, David Thompson of Haven's Rest. We know you are within. Come out so that we may speak. David squeezed Marcus's shoulder once, then straightened to his full height. Go, he whispered. I'll buy you as much time as I can. As Marcus dropped into the tunnel and pulled the concealed entrance closed above him, the last thing he heard was his father opening the shed door and greeting the alien warriors. With a calm politeness that didn't fool anyone, the emergency shelter was exactly where David had said it would be, hidden beneath a camouflaged access panel in what appeared to be a routine geological survey station. Marcus and Zara had crawled through the narrow tunnel system for what felt like hours. Emerging finally into the alien forest as twin moons rose overhead, now they sat in the small underground bunker, sharing emergency rations and trying to process everything that had happened. Your father is a remarkable man, Zara said softly, her violet eyes reflecting the glow of the small battery-powered light Marcus had activated. He risked everything to help us escape. Marcus nodded, worry gnawing at his stomach. I just hope the warriors believed whatever story he told them. If they suspect he was involved, Commander, Thane is many things. But he is not unnecessarily cruel to innocents, Zara assured him. Your father will be questioned, but not harmed, assuming he gives them no reason to doubt his words. They fell into silence, each lost in their own thoughts about the impossible situation they found themselves in. The bunker was well stocked with food, water, and basic supplies, but Marcus knew it was only a temporary refuge. Eventually, the Corvin warriors would expand their search pattern, and when they did, even this hidden sanctuary wouldn't protect them. Zara, Marcus said finally, there's something I need to say, in case we don't get another chance. She looked up at him with those mesmerizing eyes, and Marcus felt his heart skip the way it always did when she focused her attention on him completely. Even here, hiding in an underground shelter with alien warriors hunting them, couldn't help but be amazed by her otherworldly beauty. I love you, he said simply. I know it's crazy. I know we've only known each other for a few days. I know there are about 1,000,000 reasons why it's impossible. But I needed you to know. Whatever happens next, these past few days with you have been the best of my life. Zara's expression softened, and she reached out to touch his face with those long, graceful fingers. Marcus Thompson, she said in that musical voice that never failed to make his pulse race. In my language, we have a word, Velta Ani. It means a bond that transcends physical form, a connection between souls that exists across any distance or difference. I believe that is what we have found together. She leaned closer to him in the small space, and Marcus felt that electric connection he'd experienced every time they touched. I love you too, she whispered. More than I ever thought possible, more than duty or tradition or even survival itself. When she kissed him, it was soft and tentative at first, both of them acutely aware of the differences in their biology. But as Marcus responded, pulling her closer, the kiss deepened into something passionate and desperate. Her skin was warmer than a human's, and she tasted faintly of the exotic spices he'd noticed in her scent. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing heavily. Marcus Era said, her voice husky with emotion, if we survive this, if we find a way to be together, you need to understand what that would mean. I can never return to my people. You would be giving up any chance of a normal life with someone of your own species. Marcus brushed a strand of her luminous white hair away from her face. Zara, before I met you, I was just going through the motions of living. Working on the farm, following the same routine every day, not really thinking about the future. You've shown me what it means to care about something more than just getting through another day. He cupped her face in his hands, marveling at the way her skin seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. I don't want a normal life if it means a life without you. They made love there in the hidden shelter, slowly and carefully, learning the geography of each other's bodies with reverent attention. Zara's skin was silk soft and warm, marked here and there with faint silver scars from her recent wounds. Marcus traced each mark with gentle fingers, marveling at how quickly her alien physiology had healed. When she arched beneath his touch, the soft sounds she made were like music in the confined space. Afterward, they lay entwined on the narrow emergency cot. Her white hair spread across his chest like spilled starlight. Marcus had never felt more complete, more certain of anything in his life. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew he wanted to face them with this extraordinary woman at his side. There is something you should know, Zara said eventually, her fingertips tracing patterns on his bare chest. The reason Commander Thane was so quick to request release from our betrothal contract, the reason the Corvin Guard was sent instead of regular enforcement, Marcus felt tension creep back into his muscles. What is it? My father, Velmer, the Truth Seeker, has been gathering evidence of corruption among the ruling council. The cleansing ritual was just the beginning. They plan to expand their purification programs to eliminate anyone who opposes their vision of Veltar purity. When I interfered with the ceremony, it gave them the excuse they needed to move against my family. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. This isn't just about you. This is about politics, about your father's investigation. Yes. And if they capture me, they will use me as leverage against him. Force him to recant his accusations and hand over his evidence. or watch his daughter die in the void. Marcus sat up, his mind racing. Then we can't just keep running. We need to find a way to contact your father, to let him know you're safe, and get his evidence to people who can use it. Zara shook her head. It is impossible. The communication arrays are all controlled by the Council. There is no way to reach him without exposing our location. What about my people? Marcus suggested. The settlement has quantum communication equipment. If we could get back there, too dangerous. Thane's warriors will be watching for exactly that kind of attempt. They were still debating options. When the bunker's proximity alarm began to flash silently, someone was approaching the survey station above. Marcus quickly extinguished the light and helped Zara dress as quietly as possible. Through the thin walls of the shelter, they could hear footsteps moving around overhead, and the musical sound of Velter voices. But these weren't the cold, imperious tones of Corvin warriors. These voices were older, more measured, speaking in what sounded like formal diplomatic language. After several minutes, a new voice joined the conversation, speaking in accented English. Marcus Thompson of Haven's Rest, the voice called. If you are within hearing, please respond. I bring word from Velmer, the truth seeker, and time grows short. Marcus and Zara exchanged shocked glances. Somehow, impossibly, rescue had found them.